All right. So in season training, there's been a lot of daft stuff I've done over the years that had me turning up on match days feeling sore, tired, frustrated, or just not quite able to get going. And now, being in the later years of whatever you want to call my football career, I honestly wish someone had told me the things that I know now. It would have saved me a lot of injuries, a lot of a pointless soreness. There we go. So today I'm going to be talking about how I manage in-season training, and hopefully you guys can learn from the mistakes that I've made in my past. I'm Miles Harrison, and this is the MH Performance Podcast, and today we're going to be talking about in-season football. Now, in-season is one of those times where everything gets complicated, really. You've got one or two games within the week, training sessions in the mix, and then you're trying to fit in your own training on top of all of that. I've played grassroots football for most of my career, and I've dipped in and out of semi-pro. I've been lucky enough to coach amateurs, semi-pro, and pro footballers as well. And everyone struggles with the same things. How to stay fit, stay injury-free, and get good minutes, and still make progress within in season. So, we're going to be going to talk about training, how I structure my week, nutrition, hydration, mindset, match day routines, and how I change things depending on the minutes that I play, and the stuff that I lean towards now versus the stuff that I avoid. So, if you guys are ready, let's get straight into it. So, the first thing is the mindset. In the off season and early pre-season, you've got a load of space to chase improvements, whether that's speed, strength, conditioning, all of that. There's no match hanging over you. But once the season starts, your focus should start shifting from how can I improve everything to how can I feel good on match days, because performance affects your minutes, your confidence, and the way that the whole week plays out. So first of all, let's talk about how I kind of structure my week. And it's quite simple. I start with the match and then work backwards. So let's say my match day is usually a Saturday. Friday will be a match day -1. That's my kind of preparation type of day, where I'm doing things like carb loading, primer sessions, visualization, and basically doing things that help me feel good for the match. If you want more on match day -1, I've got a whole episode on that I've done already. Make sure you go and have a look at previous episodes. Then from there, Thursday will normally be a match day -2. And I'm usually there's probably a team session on there as well. And I'll fit a gym session earlier on that day. I kind of like keeping the same type of stimulus on the same day each week. It just keeps things predictable and my body responds better that way. Then earlier on in the week, Monday or Tuesday, Wednesday as well, that's where potentially I'll have another team session or a gym session on top of that. Maybe do some conditioning depending on how many minutes I got on the game previously. So everything is built around the match, not the other way around. This is where something that's called the high-low model comes in really handy. This is something that Charlie Francis used, and it's generally changed how I approach in-season training. High days are like your sprinting, your heavy lifting, team sessions, plyometrics. And then your low days that go in between those days are things for recovery, aerobic work, lighter sessions, and mobility. And like I alluded to it before, you alternate them. So a bit like high, low, and then you'll have your match. Because when you start stacking high days back to back in season, that's when you can start to feel flat or even heavy on match day. So you want to make sure that you are alternating between those days, because what you don't want to do is have a sudden spike in weekly load that could potentially lead up to fatigue, that could also lead up to performance dropping, and also increase of injury risk. So moving on to the gym work now. So gym sessions are probably where I used to mess up the most. I would go midweek and do way too much. heavy exercises, load of volumes, full sessions. And then by the time the weekend came, I wonder why I had absolutely nothing left on Saturday. There's always like a kind of repeated pattern where at the beginning of the season, I would feel really fresh. And then come around Christmas time, I used to just feel absolutely knackered. I couldn't sprint the exact same as before, and I just made tons of mistakes that normally I just wouldn't make. Nowadays, my gym sessions are a lot shorter, usually somewhere between 30 to 45 minutes, and that's it. And it'll typically look like this. For my warm-ups, I might do some kind of like speed work, I might do some drills, I might add in some plyometrics, so like broad jumps, vertical jumps, box jumps, all that type of stuff. And then from there, if I'm feeling sharp, I'll have some kind of like sprints into there or some kind of sled pushes. And then I'll move into kind of either some Olympic lifting, because I'm a big fan of that, or some kind of like strength work. So I'll probably be doing some kind of like RDL, squat pattern or something like that. And this is going to be, if I'm going to go heavy, this is going to be a little bit earlier on the week away from game day. From there, I might move into a couple of exhilarations. And then if I've got a little bit of time, I'll move into some upper body. But ideally, I want to try to keep the volume down. I want to keep my intent up. I want to keep the velocity up as well, so the bar's moving really quick. At the moment those things start to drop, that's usually when I can the reps. One thing that I also like to use a lot within season is isometrics. So these things are going to be like mid-thigh pulls, split squats where you're pushing against a rack, calf isos. They work really well because they recruit a lot of muscle without a load of soreness. And there's some research that shows that they can actually improve force production without the muscle damage that you get from heavy eccentrics, which makes them very handy for in-season football. And that's really all you need within in-season, really. You don't need a hell of a lot with a training session. You keep that routine and you're perfectly fine. Cool. Moving on to nutrition. Nutrition in season for me is, again, quite simple. I'm not trying to cut a load of weight. I'm not trying to bulk. I'm trying to fuel my body and feel good for match day. The biggest thing I use a lot of the time is a carb loading on a match day -1. And I'm trying to get around 6 to 10 grams of carbohydrates per kilogram of my body weight, which I know is a hell of a lot. I'm roughly about 75 kg, so sometimes I can go up to about 750 grams of carbohydrates, which sounds like a lot, but when you're doing a lot of running, I play a fullback, wingback position, so I roughly run around 10k plus within a game, so I need the fuel. Fuel is absolutely massive because football is predominantly a carbohydrate game. You need glucose in order to fuel your performance. And if you have higher glucose intakes, it can lead to better distance cover, more sprints, more high intensity actions, better technical performance, so you're making less mistakes. So yeah, that's why I do it. And for the hydration part, it's really straightforward there, guys. Make sure we're drinking enough before the games, making sure we're drinking loads throughout the day as well to make sure that we are absorbing that glucose into our system. Now, let's move on to recovery, because this is a big part of my in-season routine. Sleep, nutrition, hydration, they're all important, but there's some practical stuff that I do that helps me quite a lot. I'm a massive fan of saunas. Absolutely love them. I prefer those over ice baths, and be honest, I can't really stand ice baths and all that as well. I know pros love them. I know they look cool on Instagram, but they're just not for me. And the research that I've done and have seen shown they're decent for short-term saunas, which is great if you've got loads of games back to back and you need something like a quick reset. But for long-term development, if you're trying to build strength for hypertrophy, I personally don't use it. If you enjoy them, great, use them. But I'm not going to be near one anytime soon. And the same goes for mobility. I'm not going to be spending hours doing tons of mobility routines, but what I do is make sure that my training goes through different positions and different ranges. I want to be stronger in them longer positions where injuries can happen. This could be like a deeper split squat position. It could be a rotated position. Ideally, I'm going to be mimicking the positions I'm going to be in on the football pitch. I just don't do a whole practical session of 35 to 45 minutes of stretching. Cool. Right, we move on to something that I alluded to in the Matchday -1 podcast, and that's visualization. This is something that I've recently added into my games, and unfortunately, on like a Sunday evening or something like that, me and the missus sit down and we watch them back. As you can imagine, she's not pretty much thrilled with it. But what I try to have a look at is I have a look at things that I've done well, the mistakes that I've made, and if I did make mistakes, which we all do, how could I potentially do that better? And I find that that really helps me out, because when I go into my next game, I can kind of rehearse it a little bit better in my head, and it just helps me feel a little bit calmer, because in a way, I've already gone through it, and that's where visualization becomes absolute massive. So I definitely recommend doing that. You don't need to sit on the ground, meditating, holding your hands up, humming. Just watch your clips properly and then think about what you can change next time. And if you're unsure about what to change or how you can improve, talk to your coaches. If they're good coaches, they'll let you know what they want to see and how you can adapt onto that. So one of the weirdest things that I probably have to come to realization now is the fact that I'm 30. I'm coming to the later part of my years within football, and yeah, I don't feel slow. I don't feel any slower than I did when I was in my 20s, but I know I'm not 20 anymore. And in that time, I've had plenty of injuries. I've broken my leg. I'm coming back from a ankle ligament damage injury. I've just tickled. I've got glass ankles, and there'll be a reason behind that, but it happens in sports. But as I've got older, and obviously doing a coaching role like this, I do feel like it's a big part of my life now, helping the younger lads not do the stupid things that I did, because some of that things catches up with you later on. And honestly, having a in-season routine massively saved me, because you can enjoy playing more and you're not falling apart. So if there's one thing that you can definitely take away from this podcast, is that have a routine, stick with it. If things need to change, make small changes so you know whether that's going to be a positive effect or not. But yeah, if there's definitely one thing I could say, take away from this podcast, is have a routine, because then you know what works and it doesn't. So that's it, guys. That's basically how I would manage in-season training now. It's nothing fancy. It's just having some structure and paying attention of how your body feels and doing the right things on the right day. If you've got any questions about anything that I've said or want me to go deeper into something, just let me know. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode of the podcast, and as always, improve your performance. I'll see you guys later.